The people of Iran are doing what our weak leaders won't. They're standing up to radical Islamist terrorism. Protests have erupted again tonight, and it looks like the Ayatollah's days are probably numbered. Last night, all of Iran's 31 provinces revolted. Well, despite the internet blackout, some footage did emerge of Iranian citizens who appear to have been shot dead by the Islamist regime. And that looks set to get worse tonight. Today, the Ayatollah vowed to crack down on protesters, and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's military wing has been deployed. It could very well be a massacre. In fact, It could be happening right now. We don't know because of that media blackout. But this is why it matters to us here in Britain. MI5 have said that they've foiled more than 20 potentially lethal terror attacks backed by Iran in Britain since 2022, which is a remarkable number, isn't it? How many near misses is that? In 2019, Iran-backed terrorists were caught stockpiling explosives in northwest London. The Ayatollah appoints the leader of the Islamic Centre of England, which is just down the road from this studio, believe it or not, in Kilburn. Yeah. So that Islamic Centre of England, the leader of that is appointed by the Ayatollah. We let that happen in Britain. We're allowed to have that in Britain. Ridiculous. Iran is also accused of exploiting the small boat crisis in the Channel to import spies and terrorists. Iran backs and funds pretty much every single Islamist terror group you can think of. They're accused of lobbing grenades at the Israeli embassy in Brussels, orchestrating explosions in Sweden, in Denmark, and stalking Jewish families right across Europe. They're even accused by Israeli authorities of being behind the Bondi Beach massacre in Australia. Australia has not yet confirmed any official foreign involvement in that. They've even been accused of trying to kill Iranians who actually oppose the regime right here in Britain. So that was a clip of a man called Vahid Beheshti. He was actually on my show last night twice, and he protests about the Iranian regime. He was there, and then one day people with knives turned up, and he claims that they were members of the Iranian regime. There's an Iranian community actually near where I live, and one bloke just walks up to me once. He just said, "We came to Britain to flee these terrorists. Why has your country let them in?" And it's amazing, Iran actually was a very Western country. You had those famous pictures of, the women in bikinis, and you think now that they're burqa'd up, aren't they? They get beaten if they don't wear the burqa. You've got all of that going on. A lot of people came to Britain to get rid and get away from these Islamists, and we have let them in. Thanks to our weak leaders, we've allowed these jihadi Islamist extremists from Iran here into Britain. We've let them lay down roots, even though they want to kill us. And if Britain gets involved in the downfall of the Islamists, I think we'll probably see attacks here. Having said that, I wouldn't be surprised if Sir Keir Starmer offered the Ayatollah asylum in Britain within the week. So,
This interruption is brought to you by ExpressVPN and their New Year deal. New Year, new VPN. And a huge saving of up to 80% if you act now. You're busy planning how to get in shape, but the hackers are planning how to get into your accounts. ExpressVPN locks down your connection so you can start the year protecting your data. So scan the QR code or click the link in the description now.
Right, let's get the views of my panel. Jamie, are you concerned, I suppose, that we might see attacks here, or should we have stood up to the Iranians and to Islamism long ago?
Well, I think the problem is we've allowed a culture in this country that anybody who wants to talk about things like radical Islam is suddenly shut down, is accused, is labelled, and we have stopped grown-up conversations about one of, I think, the greatest threats from a national security perspective, and that is terrorism in all its forms. And there is clearly a correlation between Islamist extremism and terror attacks. And if anyone wants to doubt that, go and speak to loved ones that have lost loved ones at the hands of terrorists. So I will take no lectures from anybody that wants to suggest that it's not a problem. It's a huge problem. I hope that our security services are doing a better job than when they were trying to find Hamish Kabatu when he was walking around, and all these other murderers that we seem to let free by accident. So I hope that our security services, which I do believe are the best in the world, are not in any way being told to look elsewhere because of fears of being labelled. And I think we should just clear one thing up. There is no such thing as Islamophobia. It does not exist. It is a phobia is an irrational fear, and there is nothing irrational about the British people being scared of radical Islamist extremism. That is nothing. That is not a phobia. And something else that we need to clear up in this country, that a phobia is when something walks in the room and you're petrified of it, you scream like a spider or something. People do not behave like that. British Muslims contribute to this country in a wonderful way, and people on the left need to stop this awful divisive rhetoric that they want to peddle because they think they're doing people a favour. They're not. They're causing the problem to get worse.
All right, okay. I've just got something through my ear now, which is apparently in the last few minutes, President Trump has made a statement on Iran, which I think we've got a little bit of. So let's go to President Trump.
It's in big trouble. It looks to me that the people are taking over certain cities that nobody thought were really possible just a few weeks ago. We're watching the situation very carefully. I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts. And that doesn't mean boots on the ground, but it means hitting them very, very hard where it hurts. So,
well, after the last few moments from President Trump, seems people seem to be in favour. Chloe, I'll go to you, then we'll go to the gentleman in the audience. What do you think about whether or not we should have stood up to the Ayatollah a bit sooner here in Britain instead of leaving it to the people of Iran?
I mean, we're unbelievably soft on extremism in this country. I mean, as Jamie has pointed out, this is a huge, huge risk, Islamist extremism facing our country at the moment. Thank God we've got security services that have managed to, stop so many of these horrific plots, but it's only a matter of time before these happen. And also, it's not just about terror attacks, it's about them. What Islamist extremists have realised is that they cannot win our countries by taking them over in a war, but what they can do is they can change the host culture by, for example, funding things like all these pro-Palestine protests and spreading sort of pro-Hamas ideology and whatnot, and it's extremely dangerous. And we allow so many people like the children of IRGC leaders and whatnot to come and live in our countries. We give them passports. We've got even like Hamas leaders having council houses and whatnot. It's about time we took this seriously, but I think Keir Starmer's too thick. Thank God we've at least got Donald Trump leading the West, who are actually willing to be tough on these guys. Yeah. Well, there you go. OK, we'll go to the gentleman on the front row here who's got something to say, and then we'll open it up. I'll see the other two panellists. Go on, say what you'd like to say.
OK, so it's Sid Cordell. I'm the leader of the Christian People's Alliance.
OK.
What the two panellists have just said, obviously, I totally agree with. And we need to be tough on Islamism because it's a very serious matter. And I think we don't understand a lot of what it's about. I mean, for instance, the Muslim Brotherhood, when they took over Egypt, Tony Blair welcomed it. It's great. We've arrested somebody in Egypt who was part of the Muslim Brotherhood, and Starmer says, "Oh, you're welcome back. Come back to the UK. We don't want you imprisoned in Egypt." That's where Al Fatah I'm talking about. But I'd also like to ask the panel, because it looks as though the result of this may well be that the son of the Shah, Reza Pahlavi, is going to return to Iran. If he goes back, the likelihood is that Iran will then become favourable to Israel. Is that something that you would welcome?
Oh, so that's your question
that's
for the panel.
Question to the panel.
Oh, OK, all right. Well, fine. OK, well, go to Christys and Barry on this.
Well, I just want to pick up on something you said about the Muslim Brotherhood, because I don't know if anyone saw the news today. The insane news today that there are now Arab countries that have stopped funding scholarships for their young people to come to United Kingdom universities because of the danger of indoctrination into extreme Islamic ideology.
How mad is that, by the way?
It's the maddest thing. And it's because of organisations like the Muslim Brotherhood. And that is insane because we have a massive problem in this country with Islamic extremism that we seem to have turned a blind eye to. And also, when I say about Islamic extremism, I don't just mean about terror, I mean things like the grooming gangs. That is extremism. That is not normal religious ideology. That is a form of religious extremism because it is a crime based on religion and race. So I think it's absolutely insane. Now, the question is, should we have intervened before? I think that this had to come from the people of Iran, because I don't know about you, but I've got a hangover from the Iraq War, where we were told there was a direct threat towards us, and it turned out to be, well, that dossier had more fiction than a Jackie Collins novel. I mean, it was absolute nonsense. And so, from that point of view, we don't want to give a propaganda win to the Iranians to say, well, look, if the West goes in on like as the shining knights on horseback and tries to impose it on you, that gives them a propaganda win. However, now it looks like that this is underway by the really brave Iranian people. Yeah. Now is the time to intervene. And very quickly, this is all as well ties into Venezuela. And I actually am more and more thinking that Trump had pulled a genius move with Venezuela because, of course, a huge ally to Iran and financing Iran. And now that's going to have stopped. So,
yeah. So Barry, there was a question here, but we'll come back to your question because I want to kind of just deal with this first. But I think, if we're looking at what's going on now, the people of Iran, all of that stuff, I just think it was quite interesting. You look at some of those videos of some of the protests there, you don't seem to be seeing too many kafirs, do you? No one's going around waving Palestine flags. They just want to do away with radical Islamism. Why have we been so soft on radical Islamism?
Well, look, I want to pick up first on what I thought was a really positive distinction between radical Islam radical Islamism and Islam. And it was really good that you made that distinction, I think, and very important. And to your point, sir, last night I was actually attending the graduation ceremony at the Jewish Free School in my constituency. That is the largest Jewish school in Europe. It's probably I think it is the largest congregation of Jewry in this country on any given day at that school. And therefore it's something, the sensitivity of which and the security of which I feel very keenly. Last night, they had the chief imam of Scotland and the chief of the Rabbinical Council jointly handing out the awards to the graduates. And that symbolises to me exactly what we should be having in this country, and that is a real understanding by religions of the faith, Christianity, Judaism and Islam, and how we can work cooperatively to serve humanity.
Why have we let the Ayatollah of Iran appoint the leader of a massive Islamic centre just round the corner?
Look,
why are we doing that?
Well, the point is that I assume that they decide who they take notice of, and they, as a separate club, have the authority to do that. But I want to make one point, and it's picking up on what Christys said, and I think it was very important that he said we should not be giving the Ayatollah a propaganda coup, and of course the Ayatollah's already used the fact that Trump has engaged, but let's look back at the history here. The last time Britain was engaged in Iran in 1953, it was with the Americans to overthrow the democratically elected Prime Minister Mossadegh. And we and the Americans installed the Shah because he was prepared to give us the oil. Now, the Shah regime became so corrupt that the people of Iran rose up and even accepted Ayatollah Khomeini instead of that. Okay. Now they're seeing through the Ayatollah and it's now Khamenei, not Khomeini, but they've seen through that. Thank God they're rising up against him and all that regime stands for.
Chloe, one of the things that I think we're trying to get across here as well, though, is that now, because of the way that Britain is with immigration, mass immigration, illegal immigration, whenever there's any kind of conflict anywhere in the world, we have both sides of that right here in Britain. And to be honest with you, I find that really annoying.
You mean we have people on the street supporting?
Yeah, we've imported both sides of the conflict. We imported both sides of the Sudanese civil war. We had Eritreans fighting each other with sticks in Clerkenwell, I think it was the other month, just because they fancied it. It turned out we'd moved them both into...
But Patrick, you've got to understand that this is a legacy of colonialism.
Not everything.
No, I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry.
Don't want to be a Margaret
They
Thatcher
wouldn't
tribute
be
act.
over here if we hadn't been over there for so long.
Hang on a minute.
They wouldn't
They're
be.
not sorting their own countries out a little bit.
They wouldn't.
Themselves.
They would. They would not be.
Is this not the bigotry of low expectations, Barry? That
Yes.
people are perfectly capable of sorting out their own countries. It just turns out that actually
they all want to come here.
Some of them are fabulously corrupt, and a lot of them will just want to come here.
And we bend over backwards and we give them everything when they arrive, and our own people don't get it. And can I just say one very important thing in this conversation? I think it's wonderful to see unity of religions. I encourage it. I'm a local councillor. I have a wonderful multi-faith community. We are a Christian country, first and foremost, on every single metric. We are a Christian country first and foremost, and so many religions have similarities. Light defeats darkness, good defeats evil, and that's wonderful for people that are religious. And there are people that aren't religious, and that's also a choice, because we believe in freedom of choice. This is a Christian country. If you come to this country, that must be the number one thing you are told on day one.
All right.
This country will become a third world country if we import the third world and get all their problems.
There we go. And it's happening in some places.